Our message today is actually out of 2 Chronicles. We actually start in the 11th chapter, at verse 17. The message is called Actions Have Consequences. Now this is about when Solomon passed away, his son Rehoboam became king, but because Solomon hadn't served God the way he was supposed to, God said he was going to take the kingdom away. 10 tribes away from his son, but just Judah would be left with the king. So that's exactly what happened. And there's some uncertainty here. So we start at verse 17. It says, "So they strengthened the kingdom of Judah," this is Rehoboam and the tribe of Judah, "and made Rehoboam the son of Solomon strong 3 years. For 3 years they walked in the way of David and Solomon." So in other words, there was uncertainty. Most of the tribes went with Israel, and basically the tribe of Levi, the tribe of Judah, stayed with Judah, and some of the Benjamites. And things are uncertain for the first 3 years, and then things settle down. So the first 3 years are serving God, because it's like, well, things are uncertain. We've all been in a situation like that. We don't quite know how things are going to go, so we're going to serve God, and we're going to trust Him. What happens after that? Chapter 12, verse 1. "And it came to pass, when Rehoboam had established the kingdom and had strengthened himself, he forsook the law of the Lord and all Israel with him." Not unnatural. Why? Because people get to a place where they feel secure. And when people feel secure, they let down their guard. The principal guard that all of us have is God. So it's like, yeah, I don't need to pay so much attention to God. I don't need to pray so much. I don't need to read the Word so much. Things are good. Don't have any problems right now. I don't really need to go to church that much. Don't need to support the work of God. It's just, things are good. And verse 2, "And it came to pass that in the 5th year of King Rehoboam, Shishak, king of Egypt, came against Jerusalem, because they had transgressed against the Lord." Now, naturally, you can look and say, well, it's not at all related. The Egyptians are coming against us. What's that got to do with me not serving God? Well, it says right here, why did it happen? Because they transgressed against the Lord. Now, naturally, you can say there's no connection. But you can only say that if you're spiritually blind. Where do you think the enemies came from? God says that when you're in the right place, He makes even your enemies to be at peace with you. Clearly, if you have enemies, you have issues to work with. There are some things that you need to address. But you can't be secure in your own strength. You can't be secure in your own resources. You can't be secure in anything outside of God. Because even Jesus said, "In this world you shall have tribulation." He was talking to the believers, not the non-believers. Well, this happens to non-believers too, but especially for the believers. In other words, we have the privilege as Christians to have even more tribulation than the rest of the world. So what are we supposed to get secure in except God? Now, it sounds kind of perverse. It's like, so we have God, so we're entitled to more tribulation? Yes, we're entitled to more tribulation for 2 reasons. Okay. First, because it's all meant to make us better. Like the word says, all things work together for good to those who love God and are called. Okay. So, in other words, He sets us up to work out the problems we have in our life. So if we have fear, He's going to attack our fear. If we have greed, He's going to attack our greed. If we got selfishness, He's going to attack our selfishness. He's going to attack all the things in our life that don't belong there. Which doesn't happen to non-believers. Why? Because they don't serve Him. So it's like, they're not on His team. He's working on His team. He's not working on the other team. He's working on His team, make His team better. So we're entitled to more, and we get more. We're entitled, we get everything that the other side gets, and we get our own portion to help us get better. But that's all right. He says, in this world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. So clearly, if we're in Jesus, we overcome. So it's like, do we get more? Yes, we get more. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in the sense that, actually, if anything, it does matter in a sense. It makes us better. Or it's there to make us better. We choose as to whether it makes us better or not. And repeat that. We choose as to whether it makes us better or not. Because it's going to make us better or it's going to make us bitter. Why me? Why me? They say, well, that's not going to help you. Trying to find someone to blame is not going to help you. Because even if you can find the right person to blame, it doesn't change the situation. Still got the problem. Blame isn't going to help you. So, you have to get into the presence of Jesus. Someone did you something someone you think did you something, it may or not be true. Remember what I preached about. What you think you know, you don't know. So, don't even go there. But if you think someone did a mistake, do yourself a favor, forgive them. Because if you can't forgive them, you're putting yourself in the place of God. It's like, he doesn't really have any rivals. He doesn't really like people to get in his way. So, it's like, we're better off to just forgive. Much better off. We can get the peace and joy of God. And then you can see God's righteous vengeance visited on them. But while you have unforgiveness, it's not going to happen. So, like I said, and it came to pass that in the 5th year of King Rehoboam, Shishak king of Egypt came up against Jerusalem because he had transgressed the Lord. And transgressed against the Lord. So it's like 3 years he's busy working, and then 2 years it's slack. And then at the end of the 2 years, bam, out of nowhere comes the king of Egypt. It's like, if you are surprised by what happened, if you are surprised, you're not in the right place. We'll go through the vignette and we'll see. Verse 3. With 1,200 chariots, 70,000, that's 60,000 horsemen. And the people were without number that came with him out of Egypt. The Lubims and the Sichems and the Ethiopians. And he took the fenced cities which pertained to Judah and came to Jerusalem. Then came Shemaiah the prophet to Rehoboam and to the princes of Judah that were gathered together to Jerusalem because of Shishak, and said unto them, Thus saith the Lord, You have forsaken me, and therefore have I also left you in the hand of Shishak. You left me, so it's like, okay, I'm going to give you over to the enemies that really want to get you in the first place anyway. Give you a taste. Whereupon the princes of Israel and the king humbled themselves, and they said, The Lord is righteous. What does that mean? They completely understand. They got slack, they forgot about God, and it's like, they took responsibility. They took responsibility for their actions. Something that people don't like to do a lot these days. It's always somebody else's fault. Verse 7, And when the Lord saw that they humbled themselves, the word of the Lord came to Shemaiah, saying, They have humbled themselves. Therefore, I will not destroy them. So it's like they're really headed in a bad direction here. I will not destroy them, but I will grant them some deliverance. Not all, some. Why? Well, because if you bring them back to the exact place they were before, guess what's going to happen? Same thing, right? And my wrath shall not be poured upon Jerusalem by the hand of Shishak. Nevertheless, they shall be his servants, that they may know my service and the service of the kingdoms of this country. So why is that? Well, when Shishak conquered the country, he says, okay, now, you didn't just conquer it, take all the stuff out. He says, now you got to pay tribute, basically a tax. You don't get anything for the tax. It's just like, if you don't want me to invade again, you just got to pay up. It's kind of like blackmail. And this is how much the country's going to pay me every year, just for me not showing up. So he's saying, okay, so that you may know my service and the service of the kingdoms of this country. So it's like, I'm going to show you, by having to serve him and pay him money, you're going to see how you're much better to serve me than to serve him. God's telling us that every day. You're much better off to serve God. Why? Because if you're not serving God, you're going to be serving somebody else. We think that we're serving ourselves by doing our own thing, rebellion, whatever it is, it's, well, yeah, I'm going to do this for me because I want to do it. And it's like, no, it's not really for you. It's for the enemy. Our choices are stark, righteousness or unrighteousness. When we choose to do unrighteousness, we think we're doing something for ourselves, but we're not. We're doing it for the enemy. And we're shooting ourselves in the foot because we make ourselves slaves to the enemy. Much better off to submit yourself to God. He keeps you in the way, path of righteousness, and you've got peace and joy and victory. You only got one boss. And he's pretty easy to work for. So Shishak, a king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem, took away the treasures of the house of the Lord, completely stole everything out, the treasures of the king's house. He took all. He carried away also the shields of gold which Solomon had made. Amazing. Amazing. So how did this happen? They completely understood. They had forgotten about God, and it came up, and the prophet said, "This is what happened because they didn't serve God." And they said, "Gotcha, you got me. You got me. What can I say? You got me." And God said, "Okay, because you said that, I won't destroy you, but you're going to be under bondage." And it's bondage that they brought on themselves. And God couldn't return them back to the same place because they'd go back and do the same thing. But when you have to feel the effects of what you did, you're less likely to go back there. We know the principle. When we do crazy stuff, we pay for it, right? We've all experienced that. Not more than one, a lot more than just once or twice. This is a principle we know, we understand as adults. And so that's how I said, how do they know? Because when you forget about God and something comes out of nowhere and you're surprised, you know that God's behind it for two reasons. Number one, you're surprised. You thought before you had everything nailed down, right? All of a sudden it's not nailed down. The fact that you're surprised tells you that you weren't serving God. And secondly, the fact that it addresses your own rebellion against God is also a way that it tells you God's always talking to us. If we spend the time to get into the presence of God, instead of complaining to God and to other people, He will always let us know, yeah, it's a repercussion of your own action. The good news is we're better off to pay in this life than the next. The world out there, it looks like they don't pay. And for the most part, they don't pay in this life. But they pay in the next, and eternity's a lot longer debt to pay. So I would rather pay for my shortcomings in this life than to pay it in the next. Spend it in the presence of God. So yes, that's the second reason I told you. We get to have more misery than everybody else. We pay in this life instead of the next. And we have the misery because God's working on us to bring us to the right place. Now there's something that's very important. Why? Why would they serve God for 3 years and then forget about Him when things get good? The answer is in verse 14 of chapter 12. And he did evil. This is a summation of Rehoboam at the end of his life. And he did evil. Why? Because he prepared not his heart to seek the Lord. He didn't have a heart for God. It didn't matter how much good stuff he did in terms of whether they thought he was a good king, in terms of taxes, in terms of how he treated people. That isn't how God sees it. How does God see it? He was evil because he didn't prepare his heart to seek the Lord. I come back to Cain and Abel. It said Cain's offering wasn't accepted. Why? Because his heart was evil. He didn't want to bless God. And then we fast forward and we go right to Luke chapter 13. He says, "Oh, didn't we heal the sick? Didn't we raise the dead?" And Jesus said, "I did not know you. Depart from me, you workers of iniquity." Because they had no relationship with him. They did stuff that looked good. It looked good, but because they had no relationship with God, it was all selfish. What do I mean? Oh, they can heal the sick, they can raise the dead, they can do miracles. But if they're doing it because it's all about me, I want everybody to know that I'm the great minister of God. It's like, they don't get the benefit. God gets the glory, but they don't get the benefit. Why? Because it's about them. Their motivation is evil, even though God uses it for his good. God will use us for his glory, even when we do evil. But I'd rather be on the other side of the coin. Him working through me so I do get the credit for it. Like I said, eternity is a long time. A long time to collect the benefits or to pay the cost. We have to make the choice. And that choice happens every day in our life. We have to decide, am I going to get comfortable in my job, in my looks, in my relationships, in my family, in what I've got? Or am I going to be comfortable only in Jesus Christ? I'm not talking about comfortable in Jesus Christ in my circumstances, just comfortable in Jesus Christ. That is, I may not like my circumstances. I may not be happy where I'm at. But I can have peace in God because I know he's working in my situation. And in due course, he's going to change that. But today, it hasn't changed and it doesn't matter because I can rejoice in the goodness of God today. I can rejoice in the goodness he's given me today. I can enjoy the health he's given me. I can enjoy the beautiful weather. I can enjoy my beautiful wife. I can enjoy everything he's given me today, even if it's not everything I don't want. Thankfulness is everything. Thankfulness is everything. He's given me health. He's given me strength. He's given me ability. And I have huge potential in Jesus Christ. I'd rather look to him than to look to me.
Amen.
I'm extremely limited, but Jesus Christ is unlimited. Rather look to him than to look to me. And that's my message for today.